a lieutenant is a junior commissioned officer in many nations' armed forces, fire service, or law enforcement. The meaning of lieutenant differs in different military formations, but is often subdivided into senior and junior ranks. In navies it is often equivalent to the Army rank of captain. It may also indicate a particular post rather than a rank. The rank is also used in fire services, emergency medical services, security services and police forces. Lieutenant may also appear as part of a title used in various other organizations with a codified command structure. It often designates someone who is second in command, and as such, may precede the name of the rank directly above it. For example, a lieutenant master is likely to be second in command to the master in an organization using both ranks. Political uses include lieutenant governor in various governments, and Quebec lieutenant in Canadian politics. In the United Kingdom, a Lord Lieutenant is the sovereign's representative in a county or lieutenancy area, while a Deputy Lieutenant is one of the Lord Lieutenant's deputies. Etymology: the word lieutenant derives from French. The lieu meaning place as in a position, and tenant meaning holding as in holding a position. Thus a lieutenant is somebody who holds a superior's position in his or her absence. Similar words in other languages include the Arabic mulazim, meaning holding a place, and the Hebrew word segan, meaning deputy, or second to. In the 19th century, British writers who considered this word either an imposition on the English language, or difficult for common soldiers and sailors, argued for it to be replaced by the calque stedholder. However, their efforts failed, and the French word is still used, along with its many variations in both the Old and the New World. Pronunciation: pronunciation of lieutenant is generally split between the forms lieutenant unregistered trademark NT and lieutenant unregistered trademark NT, with the former generally associated with the armies of the United Kingdom and Commonwealth countries, and the latter generally associated with anyone from the United States. The early history of the pronunciation is unclear. Middle English spellings suggest that the end pronunciations may have existed even then. The rare Old French variant spelling LEUT for modern French LEUT supports the suggestion that a final W of the Old French word was in certain environments perceived as an F. In Royal Naval tradition a Euro, and other English-speaking navies outside the United States a Euro a reduced pronunciation is used. This is not recognized as current by the OED, however, and by 1954 the Royal Canadian Navy, at least, regarded it as obsolescent even while regarding the Army's lieutenant to be a corruption of the worst sort. Army ranks: conventionally, armies and other services or branches which use Army-style rank titles have 2 grades of lieutenant, but a few also use a third, more junior, rank. Historically the lieutenant was the deputy to a captain, and as the rank structure of armies began to formalize, this came to mean that a captain commanded a company and had several lieutenants, each commanding a platoon. Where more junior officers were employed as deputies to the lieutenant, they went by many names, including second lieutenant, sub-lieutenant, ensign and cornet. Some parts of the British Army, including the Royal Artillery, Royal Engineers and Fusilier regiments, used first lieutenant as well as second lieutenant until the end of the 19th century, and some British Army regiments still preserve cornet as an official alternative to second lieutenant. Lieutenant, first lieutenant. The senior grade of lieutenant is known as first lieutenant in the United States, and as lieutenant in the United Kingdom and the rest of the English-speaking world. In countries which do not speak English, the rank title usually translates as lieutenant, but may also translate as first lieutenant, or senior lieutenant. The Israel Defense Forces rank segan literally translates as deputy, which is equivalent to a lieutenant. There is great variation in the insignia used worldwide. In most English-speaking and Arabic-speaking countries, as well as a number of European and South American nations, full lieutenants usually wear 2 stars and second lieutenants 1. An example of an exception is the United States, whose armed forces distinguish their lieutenant ranks with 1 silver bar for first lieutenant as 1 gold bar for second lieutenant. Second lieutenant. Second lieutenant is usually the most junior grade of commissioned officer. In most cases, Newly commissioned officers do not remain at the rank for long before being promoted, and both university graduates and officers commissioned from the ranks may skip the rank altogether. In non-English speaking countries, the equivalent rank title may translate as second lieutenant, lieutenant, sub-lieutenant, or junior lieutenant. Non-English terms include alfiers, alpha copyright res, FAR currency NRIK, ensign, lieutenant, lieutenant, Power AK, second mission or Lodge ATNANT. Third lieutenant, Eastern European ranks, a few non-English speaking militaries maintain a lower rank, frequently translated as third lieutenant OF1C. The rank title may actually translate as second lieutenant, junior lieutenant, sub-lieutenant, or ensign. The Soviet Union used the three ranks Starshiny lieutenant, lieutenant, and Mladkaya lieutenant. Warsaw Pact countries similarly standardized their ranking system. Some of the former Soviet and Warsaw Pact nations have now discarded the third rank while many retain it like Bulgaria. Other nations use the term senior poruchik/nadporuchik, poruchik, and junior poruchik/podporuchik. American brevet second lieutenants, throughout the 19th century and until as late as World War II, the United States Army sometimes referred to brevet second lieutenants as third lieutenants. These were typically newly commissioned officers for which no authorized second lieutenant position existed. Additionally, the Confederate States Army also used third lieutenant, typically as the lowest-ranking commissioned officer in an infantry company. Naval rank, lieutenant commander. Lieutenants were commonly put in command of smaller vessels not warranting a commander or captain. Such a lieutenant was called a lieutenant commanding, or lieutenant commandant in the United States Navy, and a lieutenant in command, or lieutenant and commander in the Royal Navy. The USN settled on lieutenant commander in 1862, and made it a distinct rank. The Royal Navy followed suit in March 1914. The insignia of an additional half stripe between the two full stripes of a lieutenant was introduced in 1877 for a Royal Navy lieutenant of 8 years seniority, and used for lieutenant commanders upon introduction of their rank. Lieutenant. During the early days of the naval rank, a lieutenant might be very junior indeed, or might be on the cusp of promotion to captain. By modern standards he might rank with any Army rank between second lieutenant and lieutenant colonel. As the rank structure of navies stabilized, and the ranks of commander, lieutenant commander and sub-lieutenant were introduced, the naval lieutenant came to rank with an Army captain. The insignia of a lieutenant in many navies, including the Royal Navy, consists of two medium gold braid stripes on a navy blue or black background. This pattern was copied by the United States Navy and various air forces for their equivalent ranks grades, except that the loop is removed. First lieutenant in naval use, the first lieutenant in the Royal Navy and other Commonwealth navies, is a post or appointment, rather than a rank. Historically, the lieutenants in a ship were ranked in accordance with seniority, with the most senior being termed the first lieutenant, and acting as the second in command. Although lieutenants are no longer numbered by seniority, the post of first lieutenant remains. In minor war vessels, destroyers and frigates, the first lieutenant is second in command, executive officer and head of the executive branch. In larger ships where a commander of the warfare specialization is appointed as the executive officer, a first lieutenant is appointed as his deputy. The post of first lieutenant in a shore establishment carries a similar responsibility to the first lieutenant of a capital ship. In the U.S. Navy or U.S. Coast Guard, the billet of first lieutenant describes the officer in charge of the deck department or division, depending upon the size of the ship. In smaller ships with only a single deck division, the billet is typically filled by an ensign, while in larger ships with the deck department, consisting of multiple subordinate divisions, the billet may be filled by a lieutenant commander. On submarines and smaller Coast Guard cutters, the billet of first lieutenant may be filled by a petty officer. Sub-lieutenant. In the Royal Navy, the commissioned rank of mate was created in 1840, and was renamed sub-lieutenant in 1860. In the U.S. Navy, the rank was called master until 1883, when it was renamed lieutenant, junior grade. In many navies, A sub-lieutenant is a naval commissioned or subordinate officer, ranking below a lieutenant, but in Brazil it is the highest non-commissioned rank, and in Spain it is the second highest non-commissioned rank. In Portugal, sub-lieutenant is the rank of a junior naval officer graduated from a civil university or promoted from a NCO rank, while the equivalent rank of an officer graduated in the Naval Academy is designated midshipman. Marine rank. The United States Marine Corps and British Royal Marines both use Army ranks, while many former Eastern Bloc Marine forces retain the naval form. Before 1999 the Royal Marines enjoyed the same rank structure as the Army, but at a grade higher. Thus a Royal Marine captain ranked with and was paid the same as a British Army major. This historical remnant caused increasing confusion in multinational operations and was abolished. Air Force rank. While some air forces use the Army rank system, the British Royal Air Force and many other Commonwealth Air Forces use another rank system in which flight lieutenant ranks with an Army captain and naval lieutenant, a flying officer ranks with an Army lieutenant, and a pilot officer with an Army second lieutenant. In the U.S. Air Force, the third lieutenant program refers specifically to a training program at active duty Air Force bases for cadets of the Air Force Academy and Air Force ROTC the summer before their fourth and final year before graduation and commissioning. A single silver or subdued pip is used to designate this rank. The Royal Air Force also has an acting pilot officer designation, the most junior commissioned rank in the British Armed Forces. It is functionally equivalent to third lieutenant. Police rank. The rank of police lieutenant is used in most police forces in the United States. It is normally roughly equivalent to the British police inspector. A number of city and burgh police forces in Scotland used the rank of lieutenant from 1812 to 1948, when it was replaced by chief inspector. The Royal Newfoundland Constabulary had the rank of lieutenant between staff sergeant and inspector until 1997. In Australia, Queensland's 1st Police Force had second lieutenants and lieutenants between sergeant and inspector general. The first lieutenant of police, Gabriel Nicolas de Lorenie, was appointed in Paris by Louis XIV on March 15, 1667 to command a reformed police force. He was later elevated to lieutenant general. There are examples in other countries. Fire services rank. In the U.S. the junior officer grade of the fire service is the lieutenant. The most common insignia for fire department lieutenants are collar and cover devices commonly called bugles. A lieutenant usually displays a single silver bugle, though some variations exist. In addition to the bugle, lieutenants often display a single silver sleeve band and wear a helmet of a different color from those worn by their subordinates, most usually limited to a white helmet shield on a black or red helmet. Many cities and towns, however, employ a wide variety of other ranks and insignia. Lieutenants are typically responsible for an individual engine, hose tender, rescue squad, fireboat or ladder company and its crew. Other uses. The British monarch's representatives in the counties of the United Kingdom are called Lord Lieutenants. The Lord Lieutenant of Ireland performed the function of Viceroy in Ireland. In French history, Lieutenant du Roi was a title borne by the officer sent with military powers to represent the king in certain provinces. It is in the sense of a deputy that it has entered into the titles of more senior officers, Lieutenant General and Lieutenant Colonel. In Canada the representative of the Canadian monarch in each of the Canadian provinces is called the Lieutenant Governor. The Lieutenant Governor exercises all the royal prerogative powers that the monarch holds. The Salvation Army also uses lieutenant to denote first-time officers, or clergyman women. Leaders, or officers of the Boys' Brigade, particularly in the United Kingdom, are ranked as lieutenants after having completed their formal training, before which they are ranked as warrant officers. Officers serving in staff or command posts are awarded the brevet rank of captain. These officers then revert to their lieutenancy after having completed their tour of duty. See also, Captain Lieutenant, military rank, comparative military ranks, references. External links.